connecting audio. See order and roll call. So in video land, let's get a show of hands.
I don't know what I'm putting my hand up for.
We have,
He just wanted to press draw.
all right. Ryan, we have Ryan Pryor, Commissioner. I see Heather, Commissioner. Hello. We have staff, and then myself, Chair Paul Swem, and then in the conference room in Flesh and Blood, we have Scott as Commissioner. So that's 4 of us. So we have a quorum, and then others in the room at City Hall.
Mike Chambliss, Parks and Public Works Director.
Dina Dean,
Okay.
Dina Dean, City Clerk.
Ethan Benson, Council Liaison.
Great.
Dylan Gamble, CIP Manager.
Wonderful. Okay. Agenda approval. Is there happy with the agenda as is, or any other thoughts? Okay, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda as is. I move to approve the agenda. Anyone want a second?
I second.
All right. So all those in favor of the agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So the agenda is set. Any public comments? 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000.
Yeah, I don't see any public.
Okay. Okay. So we're not in. That's it for the public comments. I'm sorry. Did I hear someone?
We have 1 member of the public present, but it doesn't appear that he wants to make any comment.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. We'll move on from public comments then. Minutes then. Looking at our sheet here, the approval of the minutes from January 2023. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments or want to make a move to approval?
I move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Heather seconds. All those in favor of the minutes from January 17th, 2023, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, no nays, no abstentions. The minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to regular business to the next item. Let's see, we have the bylaws discussion. Does anyone like on the staff level want to weigh in on recommendations again from commissioners on modifying the boilerplate with different components? Maybe notably.
Just run up through the chart.
Okay, so I, since I'm fairly new to this commission, I kind of took the feedback I received from the commissioners and put it together into what maybe is already covered under the code or already covered under the handbook. And so that's kind of what the this little chart here is for, so that people could see where it's already covered. Now the handbook does need to be updated, so I made some notations there. I took a poll, and there's no other committees or commissions that have bylaws, so it's not really something that we have to do. But if we wanted to do it, I did put together a quick one-page bylaws, which covers things that haven't previously been covered. So, like I said, I know you guys have spent a lot of time on it. So, we don't want to discount that. And so if you still wanted to proceed with bylaws, these are kind of the items that haven't been covered.
My understanding was that from the history of our commission, that our concern was to have some sort of soft or semi hard, for lack of a better term, enforcement instrument for attendance. And that was probably the main driver behind our bylaws. What are your thoughts on that? Is there anything else outside of the bylaws under the umbrella of the city that could already be in place to serve as an enforcement instrument for our commission?
Well, it is interesting that some of the other commissions have attendance in the code, but this one does not. So if we eventually amended the code, we could include the attendance, or like I said, we could just include it in the handbook, which would cover all of the commissions and committees, or commissions. But since this commission does not have something, then you would probably want to put it in the bylaws for now, and then we could always incorporate it into the handbook so it sort of repeats itself. But
The other committees or commissions that have them, are they all standardized?
pretty much, yeah. There's a little bit of variation, but like the planning commission has language already in the code on attendance, and if you skip so many meetings, then that's cause for dismissal.
The value that I saw within the bylaws is incorporating everything into one document makes it very easy to see what we're trying to accomplish versus some of it's here, some of it's in code, some of it's in the handbook. And if we take the bylaws and we incorporate what's in the code within the bylaws, then I think we're making it really easy for someone to tell what we're trying to accomplish, as opposed to here, here, and here.
That is correct. But one thing that makes city attorneys really nervous is when you start copying the code, because punctuation even has meaning in there. In today's day and age where you're copying and pasting, it's not as serious as it was when people were, hand typing, etc. But we would need to seek permission from the city attorney to roll it all up into one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because the code is a document that's gone through all kinds of reviews and approved by council and public reviews, etc.
Right.
And then I would be nervous trying to do that.
And even if we reference the code within the bylaws,
That we
we're
can
not-
certainly do. We can say topic whatever, you find it here in the code.
Right, okay.
That's easy.
Yeah, that would be good. There are, like you said, a lot of things involved with updating the code.
Sure.
Has to have an ordinance, it has to be read twice, and then we publish. So there's a lot of steps involved, so it's not just a matter of quickly doing that. It's something that I would like to do eventually, because I would like all the commissions to have the same type of language and be consistent, but it's not really on the right now.
So am I hearing that this is a discussion we should be putting off, or are we trying to be kind of a canary in the coal and start something by adopting or crafting?
That's a good point.
I'm not sure what I'm hearing yet. I think I'm hearing a couple different things. We have a draft bylaws, and if the request is to go back and add code references to it, we can certainly do that. If that's what the commission wants. If the commission wants to take the draft bylaws and proceed forward with them, we can do that. Or what Paul said.
Is the city clerk advising us to go a certain direction?
I'm not.
Is that what I'm hearing?
It is whatever the commission would like. This was just a quick draft. So we could have something, because it seemed like there were a lot of meetings, but no actual production of documents. So this at least is a starting point if we want to continue on and add paragraphs, add the code references, anything that you would like to include. But I'm not making
Okay.
it.
Or we can, another option would be to actually put the code references in this document and include it as an appendix in your bylaws. That's another way to skin that cat. That example.
That sounds like a more consistent approach with other arms under the city. Is that what am I hearing that correctly? That would be more consistent.
What I'm hearing is there's not a lot of consistency in general.
Okay.
So I don't want to keep batting this around and getting nowhere with it. So we should probably move forward with whatever we have. And then, maybe we can move it to the next meeting to add a little bit more to review it one more time. I think we should just probably go down these one at a time. The ones at least that have notes on them, and everybody can says yay or nay, and then get much closer to the finish line.
Okay. Why don't we do that then? I'm going down this matrix here. And I have some comments I would like to bring in for to ping pong around the commission on attendance and kind of a light enforcement instrument to that effect. So, but anyways, let's start here.
I think Mike gets the pool done. The punishment can be just walk the plank.
Or I could bring my pledge paddle in.
Well, it's snowing.
Yeah. So, let's see, the first one, official meeting place added as mission statement instead, remote meeting option. Do we need to address something there? Or does that go without saying that there's already a remote meeting instrument built into this?
Well, I'm not really sure if we want to include actual language in this because I'm not sure what the city's position is on continuing remote, if it's going to be a forever thing or if we're just doing it now. So if we added it then and the city took away the hybrid option, then I'm not sure we would have to then amend the bylaws.
Okay, so we should leave that in the air until further notice, maybe.
Or, I mean, do we decide now as a group if we just, because it was my suggestion to put language in for the remote meeting option, but I didn't know that the city was going to axe all of that eventually. So maybe we just scratch that line off and we don't add a remote meeting option, and then just as the city goes back fully in person, then we just own, in-person meetings are required, and if you miss X number of them, whatever the attendance options we choose, you're out.
Or we could add language with the infamous and/or. So we would have the remote meeting option in there, and if policy changes, we wouldn't be out of step.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
I want flexibility for as long as possible.
I
Right.
haven't heard whether we're gonna or not, but I'm just saying that it's a possibility that they would be taken away. I don't, I'm not.
Sure.
looking
There's
at
no city council crystal ball. I know that.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So are we trying to figure out how this should be worded then?
I'm
Is
sorry.
that what we're trying to do tonight?
Is that a council decision or a state decision?
It would be a council decision.
Okay,
Yeah, it's individual municipalities, right?
Yeah.
okay. Where I came from, it was a state decision.
Oh, would it properly belong under Article 3, do you think? We could say meetings and attendance or,
Does the remote need to even be referenced though? I mean, because if you're remotely attending, you're still attending the meeting,
sure.
right?
Good point.
So, I mean, if you
Do-
just
the-
didn't
the-
address
the-
it at all, then you would have that flexibility.
Does the commission even care if it's, do you care that I'm remote tonight? Or would you rather have me there?
Well, with the state of your connection today, I'd rather have you here.
Okay. So there is that. Fair enough. So maybe we don't call out the remote part of it.
Is it better that you're absent?
Anybody else have any input on that?
I think it's as vague as possible, because our next topic is attendance.
Right.
So if we talk about removing remote meetings, there may be some commissioners who volunteered for the commission, knowing that they have the flexibility to call in. And if we take that away, then we may have another issue come up.
I would like to accommodate the remote aspect.
Agree.
Because I think that will help with attendance, which, like you said, we're going to get into that next. And I mean, just people have lives, you know, and we're at the end of the we're volunteering our time here, and things come up and you're out of town or what have you. So,
Well, and it is unfortunate when 3 people show up, but you can't get a quorum because there's nobody else, right?
yeah.
And these lovely people have, stayed late, so that's unfortunate
Right.
for them too.
So should we try to craft this language tonight, or should we just express our sentiment and let staff craft that? What's the best way to go about this, or from the brass at City Hall need to look at this before it's implemented, if you will.
I'm not sure what.
I would say with as bad as your connection is, it'd be very difficult to try to craft any language.
And Paul, you're a technical writer, right?
I am.
I say
Yes.
I say you throw a statement together for next time for some final review, and then we'll stamp it or we'll redline it.
Okay. Happy to do that. All right, let's move on to, is everyone else cool with that, or?
Yes.
Good, okay. So let's move on to, I see line 4, Article 3, line 4, forfeiture. Attendance and absence, is that the discussion about attendance that we are having?
Yes.
Okay. May I throw out some deep Yoda thoughts on this?
Please.
So we know that in December we don't usually have a meeting. So I'm sort of reverse engineering this a little bit. And every now and then in the summer, we don't have a meeting as well because of summer break. So I'm working off of a minimum of 10 meetings per year. Now, it seems to me, if you're looking at a calendar with 10 meetings minimum, that a commissioner should be attending a majority of those 10 meetings. So I'm trying to do fool's Spock logic here with math and deduce this to number of meetings that are acceptable to be missed. So if we're working with 10 meetings and we bring it down to 5, there's 5 that have attended, 5 the person has missed. For me, that is unacceptable. So now I land on 4. the thought I would like to throw out is that not necessarily a meeting in a row issue, like 3 or 4 in a row, but anytime anybody misses 4 during a calendar year, that's when they have to have the talk with the mayor. I'm trying to simplify it. And just kind of wanted to throw out that idea as a place to work from as far as, what our expectations with attendance should be.
Paul, if I can add to that, I think if you use 4 absences in a calendar year, you set up the potential for 8 absences in a row with no action, right? If you head up against the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. So I think using a 12-month moving is a better indicator.
Just sort of a floating 12-month snapshot of somebody's attendance.
Yeah, and I think that 4 and 12 months is pretty good, a pretty good barometer, especially when you mention that there's a few months we don't have meetings. Because then if somebody misses a couple consecutively too, if they miss, 1 or 2 more, it makes it very difficult to make enough. So I think that, the number of 4 is pretty good in a rolling 12 months period.
You don't need that 4. In the meeting with the mayor, the mayor has the ultimate discretion on this. Somebody could be sick. They could be out fighting cancer. And so that's where the mayor's discretion comes in to meet with the person, or, what does that look like? Is that an in-person meeting or a phone call? And then to have that discretion on the circumstances, like, do you want to continue doing this? Are you still interested? Or you're recovering from your illness?
Hey, Paul, can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that this needs to be included in the bylaws or anything, but I feel like, at least I know prior to when Ryan joined, so way back, it wasn't even so much that people might not attend the meeting, and this was definitely when it was all in person, but enough people wouldn't attend the meeting such that we couldn't meet quorum. So I'm not sure if we can have some sort of RSVP system. I know with all the kids' sports, we're like, we attend instead of everybody coming and finding out, hey, 3 of us aren't there, because that's at least, a year, 2 years back when we were always in person, that was pretty consistently happening when we'd all show up, at the police station. Well, not all of us, a few of us would consistently show up. I know, Nicole, I'm sure you can vouch for this, that we just sit there looking at each other and we couldn't do anything. So I'm just curious if we can, besides, I know like today I ran into the situation where my little one has a stomach bug and I ended up not feeling well. I'm okay enough to do it remotely, but I wouldn't have, I had planned on coming in person, but, so I could manage, but this may have been a situation where I might have been like, no, I can't come. Not because I didn't feel like it, but right.
Okay.
But
okay.
That's just an aside.
Because as I understand it, Joan has been dealing with an RSVP, kind of her own ad hoc RSVP or a de facto RSVP system for making sure that a quorum is met, which I'm sure is a pain in the rear end.
Well, I think she's had, like, in the past, sometimes she would ask, well, through email, but I feel like even at that, it wouldn't be until last minute that we might find out,
I think what Joan used to do, neither here nor there, if she caught wind or someone said, oh, by the way, I can't be there, then she would start doing the calls or the emails, and it was usually like the day of, and
right. So it was, an every month thing. It was, Heather's out of town. Will there be 4 others there? Or something.
Yeah.
Well, and it's more manageable now that there's 5 of us, because before that was like we were in the 7 or the 9 land or whatever number that was.
Mm.
So are there any other thoughts, any other shapes to throw at this as far as an enforcement instrument? Numbers missed in a row, do we care about that? Or do we want to go with a floating calendar year, missing 4?
Are we talking about missing or unexcused?
Unexcused.
So an unexcused, so how do we define unexcused? Because Paul, is that up to you to determine if somebody has a valid excuse, or?
It's up to the entire board.
That's probably, I really wouldn't want that to be my job. I can be Darth Vader if you want me to, but I really don't want to.
Usually the chair asks the board, but it's up to the board.
They vote on it.
And that's where, I had a thought for a minute that would it make sense to have a definitions section in this, or are we getting way too out of hand with that?
I wouldn't want to make it any more technical. I endorse the idea of the 12-month rolling calendar attendance, and then it doesn't have to have a hard and fast, any kind of hard and fast language about any kind of penalties. You can just say, at the mayor's discretion, up to including dismissal.
Right. I'm all for that. Does anyone else want to any ideas on that?
Ethan has something.
Yeah, can I just make an observation?
Please.
I know that on the city council people have to miss every now and then, and there's always the question about whether or not it's going to be excused. I haven't ever encountered a vote where we were like, no, we're not going to excuse that. And I don't know, maybe it happens, maybe it's happened in the past, I don't know, but it puts you guys in the heavy position where you need to say, well, no, we can't excuse this absence. And that might be a good thing, because if you have a situation where you guys have to decide either to excuse or not excuse an absence, then you're kind of having that conversation that they would have with the mayor in 3 more meetings, long before it's, becomes a real issue, right? So yeah, I think if so that might be a good thing, but you have to understand that you guys are in that heavy role where you're the one saying, well, no, we can't excuse that absence. Are we on again?
I don't think we ever lost it.
I don't think we did either.
Did we get dropped, or did you guys hear everything that Ethan just said?
I heard everything.
Yeah.
Everyone else?
In a lot of ways, I think it's a good thing, because then you kind of take care of this problem before it ever becomes a problem. And what your whole system for solving the problem is you guys speaking up and saying, we can't excuse that one. You still got all your limbs and you're not contagious, so we need to have you at the meeting.
That's a good point.
I appreciate that. So like, I know this is a half-baked idea in my mind's eye. So we run into a situation where, granted, we have a quorum, but person X has now missed their 4th meeting. Let's say for example's sake. Right then and there, we put it in as an agenda item or some sort of discussion and just sort of jump on the problem right away, and the group discusses it. Is that basically what you're saying?
Not really. What I'm really saying is that first meeting that they miss, you decide whether or not it's an absence that can be excused. And if you're really having a problem with absenteeism and the absence has not been presented with an excuse, or the excuse does not seem to be a legitimate excuse for missing the meeting, then that absence is not excused, right? And I think that the moment that you have an absence that isn't excused, then that at least tacitly sends the message that these meetings are important and your attendance is necessary. And then, you know, maybe if you don't excuse an absence that needs to not be excused in the beginning, then you don't have serial absenteeism, or you have commissioners who are going to, you know, voluntarily self-edit themselves and say, you know what, I actually can't commit the amount of time that I thought I could, and I don't think I can do this job. And it becomes a situation where you don't have to go around throwing your weight around. You're just saying, hey, we just agree as a commission that these meetings are important, and we understand if your child is sick or something like that. But if it, you know, short of that, I forgot the meeting is not an excusable absence.
So forgive me here. So if I'm understanding you, we're essentially, as a commission, at the time of the person's absence, putting a stamp on whether or not that's excused or not. If it's not excused, it goes into the tally of the 4 absence in a rotating 12-month calendar year.
Yeah,
scenario.
If you guys are excusing the absences, then they're excused, right?
Correct. Excused absences would not count.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. So that's essentially the fork in the road where it's decided whether it's excused or not. And then if it's not excused, it goes into the notch on the border, if you will, of that. So I'll work on language to that effect as well. And we can come back to it and mess around with it at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I think it can be pretty plain.
Okay. All right. So what's the next section that we want to discuss here? Is there something with executive secretary? Not applicable? Okay. Article 5 meetings, recessed meetings. Well, I don't even understand what that means. Are we just trying to get rid of that for purposes of
I don't think that, so this was an example of a planning commission's bylaws. I don't know that the Parks and Events Commission is going to recess and then set up another meeting date. That seems like something that we wouldn't do. So that's why my question was, is that paragraph really necessary? It doesn't really apply to this commission.
It doesn't seem to. Yeah, it doesn't seem to. So we would eliminate that. Notice of meetings.
Notice of meetings is covered under the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay. And the city has its own protocol in place for announcing our meetings, essentially.
We have a procedure, right? But it is covered under the state law.
Right. How about the agenda? Is there? We're basically trying to eliminate that instrument so that we don't have our bylaws dictating our agendas, or what are we after there?
Well, I wasn't sure if that paragraph was necessary that talked about who prepares the agenda?
Right, we don't, it's under the staff level in coordination with the chair. I mean, it doesn't seem like we need to address that unless there's something that dictates otherwise. Order of business. Handbook may.
Yeah, that is covered under our handbook, which may need updating in the future. But I don't think you need to specifically have it in your bylaws, but certainly we can add it if that's what the commission would like.
That or just maybe a reference to it. To at least tether the bylaws to it through some sort of reference.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on that, or? Let's see, moving on to public hearing procedure. We do that at the beginning of our meetings, I guess.
We do public comment, but not public hearings. So it's different. I don't imagine that this commission would do any public hearings.
Probably not, no, yeah.
Guess my walk the plank ideas out of the.
We could still.
That's the best. That's been the best idea all night. Let's see, Article 6, transaction of business. Attendance we already addressed. And then, do we have anything else that we need to cover after that? City of Snoqualmie Municipal Code under Article 8, not necessary.
I mean, that's where we could put it in there and reference the code, right? We could leave that in.
Okay, how would we be referencing the code?
Exactly as was proposed. I think it was Scott's proposed document. He added a paragraph that just said that these bylaws are supplementary to City of Snoqualmie Municipal Code, and then added the website. In the event these bylaws conflict with the code, the city code prevails.
Okay, perfect.
So we can add that.
Yep. If anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I always like the word "in as much."
That is fine.
Okay, sounds good.
Try to keep that word in there.
It's up to you. That's you style it.
All right, so do we have anything else we need to review on these bylaws for the evening? It looks like all the technical writers side of me will craft together a couple of those sections and bring it back to the commission next month, and then we'll do we see that as part of a larger document, Mike, that I should be coordinating with Joan on, or what? What do you see that looking like?
Going to coordinate with Dina and I on it, and I think we'll roll it in the existing draft document that was included in the backup.
Okay. Okay. All right, so back to the agenda here. What's the next item we have on our agenda?
Sorry, it's a splash pad update, and I'm trying to get the right screen up.
Trying to bring up.
There's the agenda.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's move on to the splash pad.
So, couple things. We are gone ahead and pulled the trigger on getting the actual architectural and engineering drawings done. They are working on it. As soon as we have those done, we can do two things. We can start getting bids to install it. And the other thing we can do is start working with King County Department of Health to get their clearance on all the equipment that's going in. Commissioner Vermeulen,
yes.
Vermeulen, sorry, went ahead and put together a slideshow talking about alternatives on where to put the pesky pickleball courts. Sorry, pickleball just rhymed with pesky,
yeah.
Tennis didn't. So this, why do I have a little man
Okay.
screen? I don't know, but that's fine. So initial thoughts were to place them just down the hill from the location. When we met at council, the suggestion was to actually move them parallel to Ridge Street, up against Ridge Street, to provide kind of a buffer for the soccer field. And there are several here, and I will let Commissioner Vermeulen discuss it. These are the measurements of the area.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So the moving the tennis courts to the front, I believe that was discussed at the Parks and Public Works meeting that you had. And that got me thinking about what would that really look like? And I quickly moved it to the last option, simply because if you're going down Ridge, my wife and I walk that almost daily, seeing nothing but a wall of fencing wouldn't necessarily be that inviting, my opinion. So the things that I wanted to look at then was, first of all, how much room do we have to work with here in order to get a soccer field back in place? And if you'll click in, you'll start to see some of the options that I wanted to put in and let you guys know. So this was the first option, and Google Earth says that we have 290 feet to work with on that left border.
I love the tennis court going across the street. Let's do that.
I don't think it's going to work. I mean, these
because
measurements
it's like extreme tennis, dodging cars, right?
We refer to it as combat tennis.
Yeah, yeah. So my measurements are probably plus or minus 10 feet. But even with that, a tennis court is 120 feet in length. So you're quickly getting up to 360 feet. So this isn't going to play out well. So the next option was, well, what if we put them up top? And part of what I wanted to illustrate here as well was continuing that pathway that goes along the top and connecting it down to Ridge over on the right. And then also putting a pathway between each of the tennis courts to provide access. Otherwise, again, what you have is a 360-foot fence. Mm-hmm. So I think this, from an aesthetic standpoint, puts the tennis courts not only away from the road, but up against a hill. And they're going to start to just kind of blend in as opposed to bringing them on Ridge Street. The next option, this again, is a result of my wife and I walking by the tennis courts often. And it's not uncommon to see two tennis courts occupied, but they're playing pickleball. So we're actually, I think, in an opportunity here to take one tennis court away, but by doing so, increase the availability of tennis courts. And so this would be a thought that maybe we all take a look at and consider. If we did this, I would say not to stripe the tennis courts with pickleball stripes, and make sure that somebody that shows up to play pickleball is playing on the pickleball courts, which again is going to leave the tennis courts open. So that was just the thought there. This also allows for a larger soccer field, not as large as is there now. Maybe you can squeeze it in once you do the measurements. The other thing this does, Mike, you had mentioned that the splash pad, you may need to move into that berm area to the right of the to the right of the basketball court, depending on how far away you wanted it from the parking lot. And I believe because the pickleball layout, there's about 100 feet left to right needed for that pickleball court, the three of them, versus 120. So you essentially pick up a little bit more flexibility to the right of the basketball court. And I think that gives you some more options. The next option to look at was, well, what if if you click to the next, and we'll click through these real quick because they really don't work. The minute you put something on the left and the right, you go to a smaller soccer field and you push it all the way down to the right. So that doesn't work very well. The next one does the same thing, just different iterations. Again, not enough room for the tennis court. And again, something left and then something above, you're pushing the soccer court too far down. So I think what it comes down to, the next slide will show you the two options that I think make the most sense for the commission to consider. So if anybody would like to maybe comment on so far what you're seeing.
So option number 3 with the 3 dedicated pickleball courts and the 2 dedicated tennis courts, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that what I'm looking at?
Yes.
What as far as a soccer field goes, is that up to some sort of standard for youth soccer? Is that accommodating their dimensions?
It is, and you'll see there's a couple of more pages here, but yes. So this is a U13 to U19 field size, and there you go. So you can see that if we went with the smaller or larger, they would both still accommodate the same leagues that are using them now. The Gene Hansen field, for comparison, is the larger one on the bottom there. I don't know how large the fields were at the Snoqualmie Community Park because they're not there right now, and no satellite photos showed what they were, but I would imagine they were probably the 330 by 210. Yeah, Ethan?
I've got a lot of experience running soccer games, actually adult soccer on this field. And did you visit the field?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions that I had is on that ridge side of the field, it drops off.
Yes.
So it would involve some, I don't know what, there'd be some landscaping involved in raising the level there, or?
You've got 295 feet on that left line. Take 60 feet off with the width of the the width of the tennis or pickleball. So now you're left with 235. And we're going to be sitting with a field that is about 200 feet. And then you add about 10 feet on each side for a sideline. And that's what they've done at Gene Hansen. The drop off doesn't actually occur until you get pretty close to the edge. That was one thing I walked.
The outside the fence.
It's right to the right bottom of the skate park, right where it comes near to ridge. But I think you can get that in there.
And I think these are just wonderful options. I like them so much more than the ones that cut off length to the field.
Thank you.
One thing that I am concerned about, though, is having the field that close to ridge would you'd end up with a lot more soccer balls on the field. The way that we generally
on the street, you mean?
Yeah, generally we when we make a field down there, if we're going with a big field, where the one sideline is, very near that path up at the top.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything that we could do to mitigate that problem, but I guess having extra soccer balls available is a good way to go. But
kind of like a baseball field where the cars are parked right down the right sideline and the left field or the baselines.
And I guess we do have another question in both of the options. That space at the end, can we get more pickleball in there?
Here's the concern I have with pickleball, and you Google this, it's the noise.
It is.
If you put it up in the top,
where you put it there in option 3 is furthest from any home.
Furthest away, and the splash pad will mitigate the noise as well.
Splash pad's not gonna be noisy.
No, the water, the beauty of the water.
You have swimming kids.
Yeah.
Did you consider going with option 3, but shifting the soccer field so that you can put, you know, a few more vertical pickleball courts in there?
You don't have enough room because are you talking about instead of 3, you put 4?
No, what I was saying
More like
is,
six.
well, you've got that space down at the end of the soccer field right there. If we shifted it over that way, could you fit in 3 more pickleball courts?
You don't have enough room because you've got 60 feet of width and you want a 320-foot field. And you only have 380 feet to work with.
I'm just talking about within the amount of space that you have left over.
Here?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is approximately 380 feet,
right,
right? This is 320
right.
plus 10 on each side. So now
So
you're
340.
340. And you need 60 feet minimum to do pickleball. So you just don't have.
But you don't need it in that direction.
You're talking about you want to put them this
Yeah.
way. Yeah, I think you still end up with a concern with the residents here.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you shifted the field over.
Shift it here.
Did that along
And
these.
put them along here. Yeah, you could do that. I
Yeah.
didn't separate them out. Yeah, but you're right. You could run them tandem.
Mm-hmm. But you know, a pickleball court is 20 feet wide. So-
You need 30 by 60 to put a 20 by 44.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So how much, I don't know how much space is
You
left
would need
over.
about 30 here, right?
Would that be about 30? So are those pickleball courts to scale in the picture there?
This is as good a scale as I could.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think you may run out of room. And you take away, I think what Mike was looking at is this flexibility here to position that splash pad.
But ultimately, we're gonna have to get a landscape architect to, you know, do the plans, so it's something we can look at.
Right.
I mean,
This is
How
purely
many
conceptual.
pickleball fields do you need for a tournament? As many as you can get.
Oh,
Or is there
you're not
a
gonna
sweet spot?
have too many pickleball courts for the people who want to play pickleball around here. No,
Okay.
no, you got.
Could we look at,
Yeah,
could we
I'm
take
aware.
something like option 3? And there's a couple things that come to mind. We have glacial till that we're dealing with. Where does that come into effect with the courts being on the north side? That would be one thing to look at. And then would it make any sense to eliminate, I know this is a conceptual drawing, but one of those sidewalks, like on the far eastern side of the site, would eliminating that free up more space? Like, is all that cementing needed? Is all that sidewalking needed?
We're talking about the one next to the house, right?
Yes.
So I am a strong proponent of the sidewalk next to the houses for a couple of reasons. Number one, it provides additional buffer between the residents and the activity in the park. But most importantly, that would be a lower grade entrance for ADA than the current ADA entrance, which is up the driveway. So it would be a lot steeper entrance. The sidewalk on the other side, just below the skate park, that one's negotiable. But there is a gate there. But that goes out in the grass. It doesn't go anywhere. So it is an interesting thought to put an all-weather surface at that gate, because that also would be a low grade entrance into the facility. So I can definitely see both as being a plus. As for materials, I think we could be creative. I think one concrete and one stabilized decomposed granite or some other material might work out. I'm gonna try to get away from boring old asphalt everywhere that the trees destroy. As far as the glacial sill goes, that's good foundation for pouring on. So I think we're good. Whoever has to set the posts for the nets, sorry. But I think
Okay.
as far as putting down the courts themselves, it shouldn't cause a problem. It's a good foundation.
And is this allowing enough room for the soccer moms and the parents on the sidelines?
Looks like a nicer layout than it was before. My other thought with that is, what if you put this path in between, you push the courts to the north and you put the path in between the field and there, then you'll have more room for the soccer moms.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a pejorative manner.
And I like it because it gives you all weather access for the non-combatants.
Yeah, I did have a question about like the spectators. I mean, I guess I am a
Please.
soccer mom. I'm a soccer mom, but I'll just use the word spectators. But will there be enough space all around, given that the kids play the line on soccer and they need space to do throw-ins? And so spectators are usually back a little bit, not like around the perimeter really close during soccer games.
I think it's a good question. And if you look at how Gene Hansen is designed, before you go down to Preston, they've got about 10 feet on each sideline. So, but I agree with you. I think more room would be better. But 10 feet seems to be a standard that is acceptable.
It's all about hollering distance at the ref, right?
Knock it off. You're probably a bad parent.
Always.
I have a question. I don't know anything about lacrosse, but how big does I see lacrosse played on this field? How large is a lacrosse field, and do they put like two lacrosse fields on a soccer field?
It's a little longer. It's about, I think, 10 feet longer than the soccer
Okay,
field.
and is it just as wide?
I think it's a little narrower.
Okay, so it's not like you have to worry about putting multiple lacrosse courts into one pattern.
No.
Okay, or fields or whatever.
There's multiple nets out there because they practice in much smaller areas.
Okay. I was just thinking about.
They do play lacrosse on the field up at Gene Hansen.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about if there was like a reason we had to, if they were going to lose playing space or something by making
They shouldn't.
a certain size field.
But they might lose a little bit of practice space, but that'd be it. As far as the game goes, we still should be able to accommodate a game.
Okay.
So I was going to ask where, with these ideas being presented tonight, where do we want to take it from here?
Well, I need a contract with the landscape architect and start doing that level of design for these. I'm kind of waiting until I get the drawings at least sit to 60% for the splash pad, because they're going to need those. That'd be the next step. But then once we get the truly to scale, when we get it to like probably 60%, we'll have a couple different options to choose from, and we can bring it back at that time.
Okay. So we'll look at more of a refined version of this in the future.
Correct.
But do we want to? I can't help but think how this is tethered to the pool project and the other elements going around there. Kind of looking at it from a 40,000-foot view. Do we want to, when this comes back, look at it as it relates to the pool project and in the phases with decommissioning the basketball court here and then reigniting it? West pool area.
Well,
what are your thoughts, Mike?
I got to be specific now. Just a reminder, the city council has not approved a pool project. There's a community center expansion project on the CIP plan. And to date, we've been to the state and received authorization to explore the possibility of using a design build process to complete that. We are in the process of recruiting the design build contractors, but nothing has been returned to council for a go, no go on the project yet. So I understand what you're saying, but we got to be specific about what we talk about. So that's why I just clarified all that. And the answer is yes, we'll bring it all connected together. We'll look at the park holistically when we bring it back.
Hey, Mike, I have a
Right.
question. Can I ask you a
Go
question?
ahead, Heather.
You mentioned talking with the landscape architect about the splash pad. Is that correct? Okay, I think in our last meeting, you had mentioned there wouldn't be a fence near the splash pad that borders the parking lot. You mentioned giving parents enough space to kind of run for their kids, I believe. I'm wondering if that's still your thought or you're considering a fence there, because the more I thought about it, the more that made me pretty nervous. I don't have little kids anymore, but I do recall when my kids were little, they had friends who were really fast runners. And I just imagine them being able to dart really quickly from that splash pad into the parking lot.
I understand. And I agree there needs to be some sort of barrier. And there needs to be a lot of thought into that. But there's fences that you see, and then there's fences that you don't see. And I'm the kind of guy who prefers the fences that you don't see, that aren't quite as obvious through design. So, but yes, believe me when I tell you, forefront on my mind is keeping activities separate with appropriate barriers to keep everybody safe.
So Mike, if the pool is officially on hold, which involves relocating the tennis courts, does
I
that
didn't hear
mean
what
that
you said is on hold, Paul? I'm sorry.
yes? What I was saying is, if the pool project does not have an official go-ahead yet, and we know that that involves relocating the tennis courts where the new pool will go, does that mean that this isn't a holding pattern until that decision is made? This concept tonight,
No.
being that it involves new tennis courts.
And once again, I got to be specific. There is no pool project. There is a community center expansion project, and it is not on hold. We are proceeding through the project. The project has not received final council approval for construction. But to answer your other part of the question, no, these would not. The splash pad is a separate project, and putting in pickleball courts is a separate project. So we are looking at this separately. There's nothing on hold.
Okay. Mike, do you know that there's a poster in the YMCA that talks about the community center expansion?
Sure. That's not a problem.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I don't go to the YMCA, but I did.
I'm going to be there tomorrow with a bunch of contractors, but.
Okay. Well, my husband pointed out that the discussion was started on Facebook. I'm not sure if the poster was recently put up or if somebody just recently noticed it, but there was definitely concern. I looked at the Facebook thread about losing tennis courts and whatnot. And I'm just not sure if you're aware.
I'm not really too worried about it because nothing's been decided yet. So yeah. we are in the process of exploring options. So.
Forgive me for being confused, but okay, so expansion, but we don't know that there's going to be a pool. This would be adding new tennis courts. Just
worst case scenario, we have 5 tennis courts and 3 pickleball courts, and a basketball and a splash pad, and a basketball court moved over to the other side of the Y.
Okay, I think at the end of the day, let me just throw this into the whole equation for this whole site. With COVID, no matter what decisions and everything else was made before, there needs to be some sort of public open house to inform the public about what the heck is going on this site with expansion and things moving around, because we need to manage everyone's expectations. Otherwise, you're going to have shaking fists and signs at City Hall. Okay. So let me give you that kind of advice as far as keeping the public informed on this.
I appreciate it. And if you want to talk offline about all the open houses that we've had and the different ways people are invited to participate, we can, but we're kind of straying off the agenda, which is splashback.
Okay. Okay. So are we trying to make a decision or tip our hat to a design tonight, or do we want to table this for the next meeting?
I think I've received appropriate input to proceed as I need to.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so are we moving on to the next item then?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see here. We covered, well, did we cover community center expansion or?
We're not there yet.
Oh, River Park.
Correct.
No, River Park.
Correct.
Yep.
So the update on Riverview Park is the park is closing this week for construction to commence next month. We were going to try to get it done as quickly as possible. The contractor has expressed the desire to just continue to work on the project until the project's totally complete. The wild card in the whole situation is the weather. The fall protective surfacing that is going in is extremely sensitive to moisture. Not the best time to be doing that. So worst case scenario, we should have the playground open by July 1. That is the date that we're putting out to the public because we ought to be able to get enough sunny days in there to get the fall protective surfacing in. But you know, it's 100% weather dependent. So, things are moving out there and progressing appropriately. So you'll see a fence go up this week. You'll see signage go up. Oh, it went up today. I'm getting the signal. The fence is up. The park is closed. I was working on other things today, as you might imagine. We'll get a sign up shortly. I want to get it laminated before we put it out there. And I'm coming to set up my laminator next week. So that's the story on Riverview Park.
Where do we see that going as far as what that ultimately looks like, or is that too big of a discussion to?
You mean the train playground that we've looked at pictures previously?
How does that tie into that?
I'm sorry, Paul, tie into what?
Into the River Park?
Paul,
The
Riverview Park.
yeah, that's the one that we approved close to a year ago, probably of the initial.
Yeah.
We looked at 3 different designs. There we go.
Okay.
And they're
Playground replacement?
they're starting demolition on it now, and it'll hopefully be open by July 1st.
Okay. All right. So on to the next item.
Sorry.
All good.
Got so many windows open at this point, it's hard to tell which one's the right one. Okay. There we are. Community
All right,
center.
community center expansion. Okay.
Yeah, so we did get permission from the state to use the alternative build method to do the expansion update or the expansion to the facility. We're in the process of selecting the contractor and designer to perform that function. We expect to be going back to council in May or June with a recommendation to make that decision on who that will be. We are having a walkthrough tomorrow with people that are interested in the project. I can tell you that there is a lot of interest in the project, which is all good. So that's the update for the community center expansion.
Okay. And does that expansion include a pool?
We do not have a design that's finalized, but conceptually, yes. It's really hard to tell you what's included because we do not have a design that
Okay.
everybody's approved.
Okay. And do we have hope, or are we looking to a broken crystal ball that there might be a pool, or what? Where are we in our hopes and dreams of a pool at Snoqualmie Ridge?
I believe the goal is to deliver a pool as part of the expansion. But there's a lot of process we have to go through. And I'm trying to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Fair enough. I hear you. Okay, sounds good. So park plan discussion.
I'm gonna turn it over to our CIP program manager, Dylan, to discuss this item.
Yeah, hello everyone, it's Dylan. I recall that we've spoken about this concept, the park plan, sometimes called the PROPS plan, Parks and Open Space Plan. That's what PROPS stands for. Sometimes they toss trails in there if you're in another city, PROPS with a T. So they're all essentially calling out the same concept, which is a chapter within the comprehensive plan that the city adopts. And it specifically calls out the needs, the existing volumes and amounts, acreage of trails. They'd probably call it out in miles. How many miles of trails we have? How many acres of parks? What types of parks? What's their usage of the community? Do they fit the needs? Then it looks at growth. Does the city intend to grow more? Is it going to shrink? And will its existing, levels of services meet that future demand and need? So just like the comp plan, which has a bunch of chapters in terms of housing, specifically looking at housing or something to that effect, we have a PROPS plan, and we're going to be reviewing it just like the comp plan is going to be reviewing all of its chapters. So for us, and for this group specifically, we're going to be starting, well, we've already started, there's an RFQ, and we're going to be posting it here soon enough. And essentially what that will do is will allow us to get a consultant on board who will look at those levels of services and all the data and things like that that go into a city's, future guesstimations on park needs and things of that nature. And they'll work within our current plan, our current parks plan. We'll update it to try to make sure we're achieving all the goals and dreams that a plan like this can have. And then we'll be working it through the several layers of public and citizen engagement. Part of that will be this group for sure. You'll see it several times. You'll be tired of it probably, but there will also be more public engagement. So not just a group that's, specifically meeting for this, but rather a general open house. That'll be an opportunity for people who don't engage in civic programs such as yourselves. So we'll have opportunities like that as well. And then we'll work it through just like how the comp plans chapters will get adopted. Either that means chapter by chapter, council can adopt them, or can adopt the whole package at once. Once the decision is made on which route that is going, the Parks and Open Space Plan with the T, without it, whether it's nicknamed PROPS or not, will be tossed in or adopted separately. And so we're working to make sure that our plan gets updated at the right time. We have a strict deadline, just like the rest of the comp plan does, for the end of December, or at the end of the year next year, December 2024. It's a pretty hard line, though you can imagine it has some softness as soon as you get real close to it. The state starts to panic that some of its cities haven't updated their plans properly. But we'll probably not be one of those cities because we're pretty far ahead right now. We're going to be right on time is what I guess I'm trying to say there. So I guess I want to leave you any questions, and that might help me understand what I might have missed, and that'll give me a second to spin my brain up and make sure I'm addressing all the upcoming details of this.
I have a question on the community outreach. Are we taking a survey that was done for the 2018 and simply sending it out again, or are we? How are you creating that survey to see what people's needs are?
We'll do a variety of methods. We'll have just open-ended conversations. We'll have surveys. We'll have guided group activities. There's a lot of different ways that we approach it.
Mhm.
So we try to get all the ideas in. We're not trying to be exclusive. So we're not trying to structure just a survey, here you go. There's many different communities that make up, there's many different groups that make up the community, and we try to reach each one of them as we go through this process. I'm envisioning a minimum of at least 8 public meetings, both downtown and up on the ridge, to do this.
And is there any need within the city to add a QR code to the surveys to put a different language in play, or?
That's a conversation I'm gonna have with a consultant, and that is one of my concerns.
Yeah, we have done that. So we have another project going on in the city called Town Center Phase 3. Recently went through some public engagement, and I think it went really well. There's open houses and things of that nature, but also a blasted questionnaire that didn't allow you to skip questions. So, which is great. Turns out that's a really good way to get a lot of feedback. But it also had a QR code, and it went through all of our public media. So our communications team delivered that and
Awesome.
got really good feedback, but it's not going to be just that.
Right.
But I think all the cities and really a lot of organizations around the country are realizing that it's a multifaceted approach. You don't just gotta hold open houses on the one night that everyone knows they're there. It's just not how people engage anymore. And so a variety of meetings and, digital tools and, adapting to the new mechanisms that people interact with those tools. So, but our consultants nowadays are very adept to this. They have people that this is their job now. They figure out what the certain cities that they're engaging in actually need in order to get brought into the code. So it's a changing landscape, but yeah, it's exciting too. So
Nice.
Yes, Ryan, do you have something you wanted to say?
We're just turning the lights back on.
Ah,
We sat very still for too long.
does anyone else have any thoughts on this? All righty.
I'd really like to know how you get probes out of parks and open spaces.
Parks and Open Space Plan.
Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
there are. Sorry, it's funny, there's a lot of the acronym shenanigans going on. I wish it was consistent. It is not. I haven't decided if the T is a really good addition, our current.
You don't have a pot plan?
Wait, well, we can consider it.
Space and trails.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of goofy. I was just gonna.
I like the addition of trails because it highlights the importance of that.
Our plan will definitely be including all our assets, so trails.
So I mean,
Will be, yeah,
the title. I
yes,
know the plan will, but
Yeah.
But then you have to put T into the acronym. So, and then you can't pronounce it properly. So is it really worth it?
it's the top plan, trails, open space and parks.
There we go. Okay, all right.
Have we had someone from the city attending those regional trails meetings in
Which-
Issaquah, I think?
I attend a few of the regional trails coalition meetings. There's one
Okay.
that happens that's King County specifically. There's one that happens Snoqualmie Valley specifically. And there's one that I
Right.
don't go to, which is the 4 counties, because that one gets a little wild, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you might be
wild.
in that big a room.
Isn't wild fun?
Yeah. I steer clear of that, but the Snoqualmie Valley Trail Coalition group is very
Right.
excellent. Yeah, and I do attend, and they're a great resource for us to coordinate our efforts because our trails connect to their trails and likewise. So the more we do it, the better.
Absolutely. And we were talking about signage on trails a few years back, and the item got dropped a little bit before COVID, but that's a big instrument of what we do here. So
it's like Max.
very curious about that.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
if you're ever over in Redmond Ridge and we're walking their trails, look at their signage. It's absolutely amazing. The wayfaring and being able to orient yourself is really, really impressive. So
I Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It is very good. There's probably gonna be a section in the plan that will address how information about the trails and the parks gets communicated to the public in general. And there's probably gonna be a section in there that talks about maintenance and upkeep of existing signage, and if new symbology or new color schemes. It's an opportunity to look at what we want to see, because in theory, the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Plan or the comp plan in general is our dreams and goals for what the city ought to look like and feel like when we live in it and use it. So that'll be in there. It
Yeah.
has a place.
Great. We'll talk about that. Anything else on park plan discussion to close it out? Really appreciate you putting your work into that. Moving on to special events update. Nicole, are you
I'm still here.
doing a tap dance?
Still here. Yeah, I'll be quick. Some things that are going on right now, there's a bit of overlap with what I'm doing with the Arts Commission, which I'm a liaison to that, as well as events and how those things relate. So this weekend is the real Twin Peaks, which is a celebration that the Chamber and the North Bend Downtown Association are really spearheading. And I think most people, when they think of Twin Peaks, kind of think of North Bend, not Snoqualmie, but the Arts Commission in Snoqualmie is participating. So if you're downtown on the window on the Carousel store on the corner of King Street, there's a Twin Peaks mural that the Arts Commission sponsored. It's just kind of reminiscent of Twin Peaks. So that's going on. So they're proud of that. In March, in the utility insert, so your water bill insert, we're going to be doing some inserts. One is going to be a survey from the Arts Commission. Arts Commission, kind of like you guys, is got a lot of new members, so they have different missions and different goals, things that they want to do. So they're going to be surveying the community. So I encourage you to partake in that. Also, in that same utility insert will be the printed version of some save the date calendaring of the events this year that the city is coordinating. I'll be starting that tomorrow with some social media. So what that boils down to is the 2 egg hunts. Those are coming up. Those are the first events. Then Big Truck Day is coming back in June. I had to move it back a week because I think school might have, or is probably going to be delayed the last day of school because of snow. Also, we won't be having Big Truck Day at Centennial Park this year. We'll be having it up at Jeannie Hansen because of the Inclusion Park construction, but that's okay to do that for a year. 2 movies, 2 music. A block party is coming back on September the 9th, and then the tree lighting on December 2nd. So those are the main events that I work to bring towards the community. Looking at my notes, I think that's it.
Who dresses up as Santa Claus? Is that a hired actor? Or is that a city employee? I've never known.
It's Santa Claus.
I still have a Grinch outfit.
I will tell you that particular Santa is not from the Snoqualmie area, and he is not an employee, and he is one of the best Santas in the Northwest, no joke. We are very, very, very lucky that we were able to book him, and he likes Snoqualmie, and he works for one of the photography studios in town. So he's starting to make Snoqualmie kind of his little home base, which
Nice.
He used to be the Macy's downtown Santa.
Mhm.
And he's worked for some other people. And so when I say that we're lucky to have Santa Trevor, we are. He's like renowned in the whole Santa community. So I'll get off my Santa soapbox, but he's a good guy.
That's awesome.
The rest of the time he spends up at the North Pole.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And he's a little bit of a younger Santa. So I think we're gonna we'll have him for a while. The other Santa I kind of had, well, COVID and myself, we kind of retired him a little bit because I was worried about how good he was on his feet. I kind of had to keep him propped up. I couldn't have him going. He had to have a handler on both sides, and he almost took me out on the stage one day, and I'm like, this can't be good.
Good time.
I still have city property, I believe.
Oh, okay. What, Mike Chambliss?
I still have city property with the Grinch outfit.
Okay.
It's a good time.
Not
to
that I
remind you
need
the
the
meeting's
Grinch
being
outfit.
recorded.
It's good that the meeting's not being recorded. It is being
No, it's a
recorded.
good time to remind you it is.
I didn't say anything bad, did I? I don't.
No,
All right.
Do we lose our one citizen too?
Yes, it appears we have.
So then,
Yes.
anything else on special events, Nicole?
No. People often wonder what I do when I'm not actually doing events, but I'm doing all the planning for the events that happen coming up in the rest of the year. So
Oh, well, yeah, sure. That's a lot of work. Absolutely.
tell my husband that. He always wonders what I do.
All right. So, can we dovetail into this? The council liaison input? Does our council liaison have anything he wants to throw in?
No, I feel like I threw in too much during the whole pickleball soccer field discussion.
Great to have you.
So no, this is helpful. Yeah, I don't have anything from the council
Okay.
to bring to you. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, I just thought, if there's any other lingering thoughts, bubbles over your head. Okay, so moving on to for future discussion, I would like to throw, does it make any sense for us to see where our status is with fees? Because I know we talked about fees for like parks usage and things to that effect probably before COVID.
Yeah, I can maybe get some people up to speed here. If you don't care, Paul. We had started progress on this
not on
probably
the
February, March of
agenda.
2020.
It's
Although
not on the agenda. We
Okay.
can do it next time.
Yeah, there's some history
Okay.
to it. We can get you up to speed.
Yeah, and I'm just not saying, a forensic deep drill analysis on it, just like where are we at and do we even need to review it? Kind of thing. That was my only thought.
Understand. We'll put it on the agenda for next time.
Yeah,
I'm not buying a Discover Pass or something just for.
sounds good. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on future discussion items? Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I do. I guess maybe for the agenda next time, could we include something else that I think got left aside at one point? The discussion about how we can reserve parks more easily, an online reservation system or something.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And if you want a preview, just send me an email.
A preview of what?
If you don't want to wait a month for the answer, you can send me an email and I can give you a preview of what I'm going to present.
Okay.
Oh, he was already ready. Mike is
Okay.
on.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so if there's no other ideas for future discussion, before adjournment, I want to thank everybody for their input and preparation and work at the staff level that they put into this. So, and being away from your families this evening. So, with adjournment, I will move that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, Heather seconds. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Much appreciated.